Welcome to SciTech Culture with Steve Kern and Ben Warner, where we examine science, technology, and culture in the 21st century. Visit our website at scitechculture.com. Hello and welcome to SciTech Culture. My name is Ben Warner and I'm joined once again by my good friend and colleague Steve Kern. And it's 2019, Steve. We did a lot of Trump talking last year, and I guess we have to start off the year with what's happening because he's doing some really good reality TV programming at the moment, which it's the same old thing. Just when you thought it couldn't get any worse or any more outrageous, he manages to find another level.
He certainly knows how to keep pulling rabbits out of hats, but maybe we should close our whole show down in sympathy.
Fake news and all that sort of stuff. So obviously, the latest is being that the government's shut down. He is at the point of saying that he'll declare a national emergency to get funding for the border wall if he doesn't get the agreement, and it just seems like a combination of him not wanting to be seen to be breaking a campaign promise, although if you actually think about the fact that he said Mexico was going to pay for the wall, I would think by definition it's breaking a promise to ask for money from Congress to pay for it, but maybe I'm just getting a bit too technical with some of that stuff. But it also seems like another distraction because also this week there was the Michael Cohen agreeing to testify in public before Congress thing that came out as well, which will no doubt look quite unattractive and unappealing to Donald if he says a whole bunch of stuff that he doesn't want anyone to know about.
Yeah, well, I don't know whether to be cynical. I don't know if you can be cynical anymore. On the one hand, this is a great way to run a long and protracted distraction campaign from the issues you just mentioned. It's a good way to set up conflict and appear strong. It's a good opportunity, I guess, for him to sort of try and poke the Democrats and I don't know, look for their weaknesses and achieve all of these aims at once. So it's a very interesting time. Certainly we haven't seen anything like this in the last 2 years, really prior, and I don't think any of this is ever going to be repeated again either. By the way.
Oh well, funny enough, we'll get to. There was a historical context that I discovered the other day that might shed some light on this. But before we get to that, I just want to sort of touch on this idea that he's a day trader politically. That there doesn't seem to be a plan. So a lot of politicians obviously will try to plan their steps ahead politically and try to control the narrative that way by playing the politics however they see will get them the job done. But he doesn't seem to be doing that. He's only going day by day. So he might get himself out of one day, but then the next day, whatever he did that first day will cause more trouble the next day, but he doesn't ever seem to, or he hasn't reached the point yet where he's dug a hole deep enough that he can't get out of, which is also fascinating too.
Well, yeah, you wonder if it's a structured tactic or just a byproduct of the tactic, and he constantly keeps his opponents off balance because by making seemingly unconnected, maybe they are connected, who knows, seemingly unconnected and very abrupt and, concerted efforts to see decisions or to make an impact, what's happening is his oppositions keep trying to attack him on this day-by-day basis, and day trading is a really good way of describing it. But probably that's all really diversionary. Like I say, I don't know whether that's planned or not planned, but it certainly seems to be the way he works.
Well, the other interesting thing too is that it would appear that the funding to keep the government open was actually a done deal, and it wasn't until he got barraged by right-wing commentators saying that he was a weak president or a joke if he wasn't going to stand up and fight for the wall, and then he turned on a dime, and now we're in the position that we're in now, So it's not just that he might be copying it from the other side. It seems like he copped it from his own side, and he had a knee-jerk reaction to it.
Yeah, but we've seen him do this at other times before on probably, I guess, now what appear to be a lot less significant issues, but back at the time where, seemed a lot bigger. But I mean, the fact that he doesn't seem to actually hold any long-term belief means that he can change his mind very rapidly. He can retract and change what he said 24 hours later. He can make decisions that appear to fly in the face of other things that he's doing. I mean, that's, as I say, whether or not that's part of a structured plan or an appearance of disorder, order within disorder, who knows?
Oh, absolutely. But, yeah.
It makes him very hard to stop.
Yeah, exactly. I was just looking up, because I didn't have the article with me before, but the historical context. So I was watching a clip on YouTube by historian Noel Ferguson. I think his name is. So he was... I can't, if I've got his name wrong, I'm sure someone will correct me at some point. But anyway, he was he's spoken a lot about the current historical context. What does it mean? And he's kind of telling everyone to stop hyperventilating over the fact that it's not the 1930s, that this period that we're going through now is more akin to the 1870s in America, where he actually mentioned a bunch of things which I then looked up. A guy named Dennis Kearney, I think his name is, was a demagogue of extraordinary power, as he was called at the time. He didn't actually necessarily get to Trump's level, but he ran on a lot of the same things, although his target was the Chinese at the time, so he had a slogan, "The Chinese must go." And the reason why this was brought up is that if you have the right ingredients, which is a financial crisis, rising immigration, and a demagogue, or someone that can speak to all those things, and harsh economic times, so you got a lot of people out of work and that sort of thing, you mix all those things together and someone like this comes up and they catch on. And he was essentially saying that Trump's a bit like this as well, that what ends up happening, it's like a cycle, and it's not the first time these guys come up, that they'll have all these ridiculous promises. They all sound great and people latch onto them, and then it all flames out in a hurry when the penny drops and the public realizes that they can't deliver on anything that they said that they would do. And he said, obviously, you can never predict the future, but if based on how Trump's been going, and the border wall is a good example, because he said Mexico will pay for the wall, and that's not going to happen. So examples like that, I think, and I just thought the connection was quite interesting. That if nothing else, this idea that are we really living in a time that's really that unique? Or is it that we're just seeing another cycle of it come through? It's just that we haven't seen it, and none of us in any of our generations were alive to even know of a previous cycle where this occurred.
Well, it's a good point, and people wonder why we should bother learning history. But, these are the reasons why. It's not really just about knowing dates and what happened, but it's understanding the context. And Ferguson's absolutely right. I mean, I think it might have been Roosevelt, I'm not sure of my American politics, who said, "When have times not been tough and money scarce?" And look, really, you can apply that probably on a year-on-year basis. And there's always a government in promising to fix something that we don't like. That's the very nature of politics. When you have issues like immigration, like external threats, perceived or real, doesn't really matter. Because you can create these threats whether they exist or not.
Yeah, caravans on the southern border, for instance.
Exactly. And you can then also create, you can create a financial crisis pretty easily in government as well, just as easy as a market can do it for itself. So, these are things that you can use to rally people. And typically you rally people, Trump's base, they're not, as was shown actually in the lead up to the last US election, they're not necessarily Trump supporters, but the issues that Trump is talking about resonate with them. And there really is a separation now at a political level where even the most ordinary politician is effectively an elite. They're on the inside of legislation, they're on the inside of regulation, For them, they can go wherever they want, do whatever they want, and will always say the right things because they're taught and they know what to say. And that's not being cynical or negative about it. That is a transference now from a social sort of, I guess, demographic to now more a political demographic.
Mm.
So you have all those people who are in the system and you have all those people who are out of the system. Trump, like many demagogues, over the full history of time, knows how to speak to those people who are out of the system.
Yeah.
So for all the regulation and legislation we have for equity and equality, I think the truth is we're leaving a lot of people behind.
Yeah, exactly. All right, we might finish up on that point, but just one final coda. I noticed that the 2020 Democratic wannabe candidates are starting to come out of the woodwork. I mean, now it's just the fact that they're all trying to be coy about it is just amusing. Of course, they all want to do it, but
the guy, I don't know his name, Beto, someone.
Yeah.
And he cast himself from his dental chair.
Yeah.
What's going on there?
Yeah, exactly. And then there's like, I can't remember her name now. One of the famous ones anyway, but she was on the Late Show and he said, "Oh, are you running?" "I might." And it's like, yeah, of course you are. No,
I'm voting for the guy with clean teeth.
Yeah, that's right. And I guess we just need Bernie to pop up at some point. So, all right, I'm going to run.
And he will. And so will Hillary, I'm sure.
All right, absolutely. And we'll, I'm sure we'll touch base on some of this stuff later in the year when it gains a bit more traction. Absolutely. All right, so we'll wrap it up there, and don't forget our website, SciTechCulture.com. You can get all of our links and content there. You can subscribe to our YouTube, Vimeo channels, our RSS feed, so you can listen to us on your devices, and we've got all our blogs, etc. on the website, so and we greatly appreciate you visiting. All right, so that's it for this episode. We'll catch you next time.